Yeah. Roofs, logics over there.
Today, we're diving into a new technology that might just change one of the biggest, most expensive headaches of owning a home: replacing your roof.
Okay, let's just jump right into it because this is a really interesting idea. It's a frustrating fact of life, right? The asphalt shingles on most of our homes, well, they're basically designed with an expiration date. We've all just kind of accepted that every 15, maybe 20 years, you got to rip the whole thing off and start over. But what if that entire assumption is wrong? What if failure isn't built in?
So, to really understand the solution here, we've got to get down to the root of the problem. And it all comes down to what's happening on a molecular level as your roof gets old and brittle. At the very heart of every single shingle is this stuff called asphalt binder. The easiest way to think about it is like a flexible, waterproof glue. Its job is to hold all those little protective granules onto your shingles. And when a roof is new, this glue is nice and pliable. But, over time, with the sun beating down on it, the heat, the oxygen, a chemical reaction called oxidation starts to happen. This is really the main reason shingles age, and it's irreversible. It turns that once flexible binder hard and brittle. You know the perfect analogy? It's just like an old rubber band you find outside that's been sitting in the sun. You try to stretch it, and it just cracks. And once that happens, it kicks off this whole chain reaction. The binder gets brittle, so the shingles start to crack. Then those little granules, the shingle sunscreen, they start to fall off. This exposes even more of that binder to the elements, which just makes it age even faster. It's this vicious cycle that leads directly to leaks and, you guessed it, total roof failure.
For decades, we've really only had two ways to deal with this. And honestly, both of them are pretty flawed. We've basically just been painting over the problem.
So on one side, you've got these roof coatings, but they're really just a surface-level patch. They don't actually fix the brittle binder underneath. They just cover it up for a little while. It's exactly like painting over rust on a car. You know the problem is still there, festering underneath. On the other side, there's a full replacement. And yeah, that works, but it's wildly expensive and creates literally millions of tons of waste for our landfills every single year. But now, there's a completely new approach from material science that flips this whole script. What if, instead of a patch on top or a total tear-off, you could actually fix the problem from the inside out?
And this right here is the key difference. Forget about a paint job. Think of this more like a deep conditioning treatment for your roof. It's not some coating that just sits on the surface. It's a treatment that's actually designed to penetrate deep inside the shingle and fix the problem at its source.
So how does it do that? Well, it's basically a three-step process. First up is delivery. A special carrier system drives the active ingredients deep down into the shingle. Then, penetration. Super tiny nano-silica particles work their way into that old, brittle asphalt binder. And finally, reinforcement. Those little particles link up and form this durable network, basically restoring the shingle's flexibility from within. Now, the science sounds amazing, for sure. But the big question is always, does it actually work? So let's move away from the theory and look at the cold, hard data from independent labs. And we're going to be talking about some internal company study here. This technology was put through the absolute ringer by UL, that's Underwriters Laboratories. They use the exact same tough, standardized tests that brand new shingles have to pass just to be sold in the first place.
First up, fire resistance. Super important, obviously. Well, not only did the treated shingles pass, they kept the highest possible rating, Class A. And the official report from UL said it all, and these are their words. There was no evidence of tearing, fracturing, cracking, splitting, or rupture. I mean, that's pretty definitive.
Okay, now this is where things get really incredible. An old, aged shingle usually has a Class 1 hail rating. That's the lowest one you can get. After this treatment, independent UL testing showed it jumped all the way to a Class 4. That is the highest, most durable rating for hail resistance a shingle can possibly get. That improvement is just massive. So what do all these classes mean in the real world? Well, Class A is the best you can get for fire resistance. And that jump from a Class 1 to a Class 4 for hail, that's going from barely any protection to the best possible protection. And that Class F wind rating, that means your roof can stand up to hurricane-level winds. And speaking of wind, get this. The test results here are just as impressive. They blasted these treated shingles with sustained winds of 110 miles per hour for 2 hours straight, and they held on tight. No lifting, no failure.
That's a solid pass for the highest win class there is, Class F.
So when you add all this independent proof up, it's about more than just passing some lab tests. It has huge real-world consequences. It lets us completely reimagine the life of a roof for our homes and for the planet.
Okay, let's start with the environmental side. The average roof replacement sends about 3 tons of old shingles to a landfill. 3 tons! And that stuff just sits there. It doesn't break down. By restoring a roof instead of replacing it, you keep all of that waste out of the ground.
And it's not just about the physical trash either. When you think about all the energy that goes into making new shingles, trucking them around, and installing them, choosing to restore your roof instead can cut its total life cycle carbon emissions by around 25%. That's a big deal. So it all really boils down to this. You can save thousands of dollars by not having to replace your roof prematurely. You can seriously upgrade your home's protection against crazy weather, and you get to make a choice that drastically reduces your impact on the environment. It's a win-win-win.
You know, when you look at the science and you see this level of hard proof, it really makes you wonder. We've all been taught to just accept that our roofs have a short lifespan. But maybe, just maybe, that era is finally coming to an end. Could this actually be the end of the disposable roof?